To my wife and I, when we arrived, Yallourn was quite a pleasant surprise. We had imagined, having lived in Newcastle in coal mining areas, that Yallourn would be the same, that it would be in a flat, dusty area typical of most coal mining communities. Yallourn is a company town.
We haven't missed out on a thing. Anything that the town has had, it's been the best.
The Commission owns all the land, all the buildings, except a few odd ones, which include the churches.
As far as education or sport, or we had a wonderful health system here, best health system of the lot.
1922, January, I came here, and I saw the first house go up, and I'm thinking I would stop here till I'm kicked out and see the last one go down. I've liked the place that much. I've seen the whole lot of it come through, and the friendship and everything.
The township of Yallourn, of course, is sitting over the top of some 200 million tonnes of first-class coal.
It's very sad to think that such a lovely town can be demolished, but we've always known that that was going to happen sometime.
The worth of that coal is about $200 million.
Apart from a personal point of view, it seems it's an appalling waste.
Where we live now, there was bush and kangaroos and wallabies, and we pushed our pram up there for walks.
Now, they've built a W station. It can't eat grass. It's got to have the coal that's under the town.
We were given to understand right at the start of things that they would eventually do away with the town because there was coal under it.
The Commission's been the best boss ever I worked for, and I was very, very sorry on the day that I retired.
Son born, the only son, 3 grandchildren. When the town demolished, they haven't got a birthplace.
They say the town was born to die. A lot of boating. The town wasn't born to die, it was born to live, and it's living now.
Yallourn was condemned from the day it was built.
The Save Yallourn Committee only had a few hours' notice that the house in Fairfield Avenue was to be removed. The committee rang up various people and asked them to come along early in the morning. And by parking the cars in the street, it meant that the semi-trailers couldn't get in to take the house away. A silent protest, so to speak.
The only argument the SEC really has is the basis of economics.
We can't entirely blame the SEC because the SEC, after all, they're only a state instrumentality, and they do as they're told. It's the government.
Surely, apart from the economics of this exercise that the Commission are carrying out, people must be taken into consideration. This is, in my opinion, this is the most important issue, as people.
They're trying to maintain that it's too late, but it's not too late. See, they've taken 80 houses out of town, but there's still 80 vacant blocks of ground, and the sewage is there, and the water's there, and the light's there. I mean, they can build other houses on it. They still need to say it's too late.
We hope next time this sort of destruction goes on, we'll be really prepared, and we'll be in first next time.
Well, my contention is that if every house in Yallourn went, Yallourn still has enough left to make it worth keeping.
Oh.
That's right, yes.
I mean, if they don't want to run houses, well, fair enough, pass over to someone else that does. There's a housing commission, there's other municipalities about that can take over.
They could even
give the houses away. If they don't want the houses, give them away to the people that want them.
They're not letting people come in, and there are people around who are screaming for housing, and nobody's being allowed except SESP personnel, and the odd teacher comes in, and that's it. And yet you'll see empty houses in every block, and people will be willing to come in and live in them.
We've been proud of the town. We've got to admit this. The Commission have given us a beautiful town. Well, the irony of it, for them to just destroy it. We put down roots. We were part of a community. And can you imagine what it's costing those people now to have to plan and leave a way of life? That's what it is.
And it sort of developed into a couple of days of just sitting around and watching, and most of the day there were 3 or 4 women and a handful of kids just standing around and chatting and knitting and watching the workmen take off the tiles and split the house down the middle. And it was really quite a fascinating procedure. The police came along early on the morning on the 5th day, I think it was the 5th day, and put up no parking signs. And apparently they have to wait for an hour or whatever it is before they can book anybody. So in that time they went round and woke up the owners of the cars and said, would you kindly move your car, it's in a no parking zone. So consequently the members, or the owners of the cars, went down and moved their cars, and out went the house.
We put the signs out about 5 o'clock or a bit earlier, and people started turning up, and there's been no trouble at all, really. You know, they accepted it, except a couple, and they were told. And things have gone pretty smooth since then.
1970, the government appointed the Public Works Parliamentary Committee, which is a committee comprising members of all parties in the Parliament, and they came up with the recommendations that the decision made by the State Electricity Commission of Victoria was a correct one, and that Yallourn should be demolished and the coal won from underneath it. As Minister for Fuel and Power, I've been very much involved in this. Actually, for 40 years I've lived within 12 mile of Yallourn and know quite a deal about the town. In fact, as far back as 1948 it was decided to build no more houses in Yallourn. In 1960 the Commission advised the people that at some stage the town would go, and from then on they've endeavoured to keep the people informed of what the progress would be, finally culminating in the investigation by the Parliamentary Committee. Since the committee finalised their report, other things have taken place, particularly the duplication of Yallourn W. This was approved of to give Victoria another 700 megawatts of electricity, which will be needed in the next few years. And to do anything else but to duplicate Yallourn W would have been extremely costly, and also would have brought about a shortage of power in the 1978-1979 period. This must be avoided if at all possible. If additional costs are to be borne by leaving the Yallourn coal where it is under the town and other cuts opened up, this naturally must go onto the price of electricity.
There are several reasons why I believe Yallourn ought to be saved, such as the unique planting of Yallourn. It's a mature town where trees and shrubs that were planted some 20 to 30 years ago have reached a stage where it can't be found in newer communities. As the member for the area, and Yallourn being part of my constituency, I have had hundreds of requests from people seeking accommodation. There's such a long waiting list now, people wanting Housing Commission accommodation and can't get it. They're saying, well look, we hear there's vacant homes in Yallourn, can we get accommodation in Yallourn? Well, the answer of course is no. The only people to get houses in Yallourn now are those that are okayed by the SEC Housing Committee.
It's the only house I've been in Yallourn. I have boarded in other houses for a year or two, but this is the only house I've really lived in. Before I could get this, I lived in a hotel in Maui for 6 months. And then they offered me this house. I pay $9.40 a fortnight. That includes all rates and taxes and everything. Well, I feel that I'll never want to leave it. I'm very pleased with it. Everything's been good. They do everything I wanted them to do. When my wife was ill, she had a stroke, she had a bed there. Well, there was no light behind her. And they came and they put a window in there for her where she could read. And she could get the easterly breeze. And they put all that window in about half an hour they come inside and they cut the piece out of the inside and the window was finished.
When I come back from hospital, I'm an old age pensioner. I'm 87, 88, and they have a housekeeper here on the mat for me for 3 weeks, or longer if I need, if I was very sick. I have had them for 4 weeks, and they do everything they can for you. I don't think there's anything we've asked for that we haven't got.
And any windows were broken, they've always repaired them, and steps, anything like that, drains blocked, new drains wanted, and drive, there was no metal or anything in the drive. Anything like that, didn't matter much what you asked for, you got it. In fact, I told everybody it was the best milking cow I ever struck. Never went dry, summer or winter.
I've lived overseas and I have lived in other parts of Australia. I've lived in other towns in the valley, but this place is unique in that it has everything that a normal family man would want for himself and his children. And I must confess that it is mainly due to the SEC. Other people did contribute towards the town by their financial commitment to the swimming pool, for instance. But the maintenance of these facilities, the general cost of running the town has been borne by the SEC.
Well, I spent, 5, 6 years in Ballarat. And although I like Ballarat as a town, it's a very big town, and then consequently it's got the same facilities that Yallourn's got, but it's got a bigger population to use them. Yallourn's got a theatre, and in that theatre they have live or films. I think it's rather fantastic that a town of what, 3,500, it might not even be that anymore, can have coming from it a magical society and an orchestral society. It used to have a thespian group and the film society. One of the incredible things, if not one of the most beautiful things about the town, is the fact that although we're all renting the houses within Yallourn, there's nobody that owns anything in here. Virtually from the moment that you come into the town, and the moment you walk into the house that you've acquired the lease of for so many years, you consider it your home.
And that's because it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, I think this is it.
Yes, and the main reason for this place being beautiful is the fact that the SEC, who, in my opinion, are not the villains of this piece, have provided initially the materials for the formation of the gardens, and the people do the work in their own gardens, but they have been encouraged by the SEC. They have been provided with base materials for the gardens, and they still are. If you want soil today, you can get good soil at nominal cost.
They've just put so much into it.
Well, in that respect, they have made it harder for people to leave. But, well, let's be fair about it. You've got to give the SEC credit for making our stay as pleasant as possible.
You know, they said, we want a planned town, a town that works, a town that's good to live in.
Whatever I've got in my life I've paid for, I didn't get for nothing. As far as I'm concerned, well, Yallourn's getting it damned easy and it can't last forever.
I think that the SEC built the town, Therefore, when it becomes uneconomical to run and maintain, which they've got to do, and us taxpayers, we've got to pay for it, well, they're the bosses in charge, and if they say it's got to go, I think it's got to go.
Well, after all, when they, opened up the mall open cut, they didn't build a new town here for us, someone else built it. Perhaps they should never have been in the housing game, but there wasn't anything else in those days, was there?
Well, I think it's got to go, as a matter of fact. I mean, so far as the economics of the business is concerned, it'll have to go.
But they've been very liberal in their compensation, the SEC.
Very liberal. Well, they're giving them $2,000 and they can buy their house.
Who's paying for that in this instance?
Who's paying for that, Bill? The ratepayers. Us. We're paying through SEC, through paying our power bills. Now, they built the place. Surely, they maintain it and have done for years. Surely they should have the right to say, well, this town's got to go. We want the coal underneath. Now, they've built a W station. It can't eat grass. It's got to have the coal that's under the town. Honestly, to be quite honest, they've been pretty well looked after.
I wish to heck I could get the compensation they're getting.
Perhaps if we hadn't cleared all this atmospheric pollution up like it used to be, that they it'd have been the same as it was. They'd have been racing to get out of the place.
They would have been wanting to get out, for sure.
So I think the SEC built a rod to their own back earlier, and I think they realised this. They had to do all these things for the people, and they went a bit further, and they done this, and they replaced gates that were fell off, and all this sort of thing. And if you spoil anybody enough, they'll turn around and bite the hand that fed them. Now, this is a proven fact, and I think this is what's been going on. They've been given so much that they want more. And I think that the SEC own the town now. They should be entitled to take it away. Well, more so lately, Cheddar, with the oil crisis, I can see a very short space of time before they'll be needing coal to make petrol.
As manager of the Latrobe Valley Department, we have only about 10 to 15% of our employees living at Yallourn, and it's not intended to re-establish them in toto. The concept of another company town to substitute or replace Yallourn Township was considered by the Commission, but it's very definitely against Commission policy. Personally, I feel quite strongly that company towns are undesirable in a community of this sort. It leads to parochialism, it's inclined to destroy initiative, and people generally, if they feel in the long term that they're part of an overall community rather than a small section of it, which could perhaps, if it was small enough, become to be regarded as a ghetto, is hardly a desirable development in the community of the Latrobe Valley.
As the President of the Trades and Labour Council here in Yallourn, we are very concerned about the whole question of the removal of Yallourn, not just as people here in the central workshops, there's a section of the trade union movement, but the trade union movement as a whole in the valley are concerned about a number of things which result as which are a result of the SEC proposal to demolish the town. For example, we lose quite a number of jobs. The hotel employees, the shop assistants, the swimming pool attendants, the gardeners, the people who repair the sewerage water supply system, there's the electricians are here in this workshop. Quite a large amount of work is done by members of trade unions in the maintenance of the town. The position is that there is a shortage of homes for working class people in this area, and here's a proposition where a government department is virtually going to destroy 1,000 homes, and even if there is replacement, with the present spiralling of prices in real estate, this is going to be a further burden on the community, and we feel that it's a burden that could be avoided.
Well, at least since the Christmas break, since then there's been at least 2 houses go, and I think there's another 2 on the way going. I've heard nothing of it. They're just quietly disappearing. So it looks like the Save Yallourn Committee and the Action Committee and the people of Yallourn seem to have given up. You know, I was never involved with the committee, so I don't know the people all that well. The way it seems to me is that the communications broke down, and this sort of thing usually only happens when people give up caring. I think perhaps they don't have much fight left in them. They've resigned themselves to the fact that the town's going to go. They've heard all the arguments. There are a few people that don't want it to go, that can't see any point in it going, that are upset by it. But they're just being bamboozled by everybody into believing that it's just going to have to go, and a lot of them, I think, are resigned to that fact.
We're not a juggernaut that just rides straight through everything and to hell with everybody, that attitude. We've weighed it up very carefully. I'm in the unfortunate position, perhaps unfortunate position, of being responsible for the mining, generation, transmission, all the major engineering activities of the SEC. And I have been involved in the Yallourn Township, amongst other things, and the decision to remove the town and win the coal. And this has not been an easy decision to make. The Commission as a whole has been tossing up whether it's right and proper to remove a township on the grounds of economics or whether it is not. And there has been a lot of evidence given at the Parliamentary Works Committee inquiry in 1970, for and against. But if you go back to the basic facts of the matter, I think you have to remember that the SEC is acting in the form of a trustee. It has a responsibility to develop the coalfields, the brown coalfields of Victoria, for the generation of power for the total benefit of the community. And it is held accountable for its stewardship in carrying out this activity, and it is working on the basis that its charter is that electricity shall be provided to the people of Victoria at the lowest practicable cost. Now, inevitably, there are constraints in producing electricity at the lowest practicable costs. You are affecting people, you're affecting employment, decentralisation of industry. All kinds of things have got to be weighed up and considered before a decision is made. The township of Yallourn, of course, is sitting over the top of some 200 million tonnes of first-class coal. It was always known that the coal was under the township right from its inception, and it was recognised that there was an inevitability of a situation arising where we had to remove the township. The worth of that coal is about $200 million. Well, I think one should look at the alternatives available to us if we don't remove the township. One is to open up a new field altogether, perhaps the bridge field. The other alternative is to open up the Loyang field ahead of time. But we cannot open the Loyang field in under about 10 years, and it is going to be more costly, and we will be asking the community to bear a substantial additional cost of electricity, which must be borne by all the people of Victoria. So we are really left at this point in time with no alternative but to go through the township and recover that coal. If we don't go through the township, then in a period of 4 to 5 years, we'll be faced with a situation of running out of coal for the Yallourn complex of stations. And this is going to have, as a natural consequence, restrictions of electricity to industry, people as a whole.
You're right this side. One of the reasons why I'm leaving Yallourn is that my wife's expecting, and the feeling is about my wife is that with the town coming down around our feet, it makes my wife feel very uneasy. Vacant block beside us, one behind us gone, across the road gone. We don't know whether we'll be next or not. So we are moving out. Very sorry in many ways to be leaving, but like hundreds of others, we're moving out. I don't know, community life that's been here for 50 or 60 years.
and it's just going to go. Then the dredgers will move in, cut it up. I just hope to goodness they do the right thing by the people who have worked for the SEC for so many years.
In March 1973, the Commission made a public announcement which incorporated details of how the new development incorporating W3 and 4 power station would affect the movement of the open cut through the town. Mainly that the excavation of the town in the southwest corner would start in 1979, compared with previously the excavation was to start in the southeast corner in 1985. We decided that we would find out how this affected people and what we could do to assist them to move out of the town so much earlier. For this purpose, we decided to have a survey of each tenant in the township of Yallourn. The sort of question we asked was designed to let us know what the people themselves wanted.
Well, I'd like something exactly as I have now.
Why is that?
Also, when the family want to come up, the children, grandchildren, I'd have accommodation for them. I don't have to say, no, I can't have you.
Well, that's a very good reason, yes, I can understand that. Look, I'll make a note of that. You want a place which is not just an elderly person's unit, compact and very nice for somebody who lives by themselves, but you want a place...
I want a home.
Yeah.
How are you, John? How are you?
I'd like to say how pleased I am to be here for the first time to see our survey team. Pleased to see that you've come through your first week unscathed and without any black eyes.
My first reaction, and it's a bit hard to generalise at this early stage, but I've been surprised at the amount of loyalty and acceptance, loyalty to the Commission and acceptance of the proposal by the elderly people. Their readiness to make a change has been surprising.
Don't you feel, Carl, that when you get there on the door, though, there's been a good reaction?
We're very pleased with the personal approach, the fact that an individual from the Commission has come to talk to them in the privacy of their own home. They found this to be very reassuring.
You fellas make it sound as if it's been a bed of roses. I must be the odd man out because I've been quite affected in a way by being greeted with a look of apprehension and fear by particularly a widow, an elderly person who is alone and doesn't fully realise what's in store for her. And in this past week, on more than one occasion, I have sat and listened to a lady, through her tears, tell me of her feeling of uncertainty for the future.
Graham, I found that most people that I visited, like Colin, gave me a very good reception, were quite pleased about what the Commission were trying to do to help them as we were presenting it to them. But one elderly couple in particular that I went to interview or to see today, as a matter of fact, left me in a very depressed mood. This elderly couple, they were both around about, I would say, the 80 years of age mark, and they're absolutely worried sick about what they're going to do. They've probably got about another 9 years, I think their area is to go before it actually goes, but they're absolutely worried sick. They said, well, if we've got to go, we want to have a place exactly the same as we've got here. And the elderly gentleman himself was that worried that he even indicated that he may as well kill himself rather than go through the worry of what he's got to go through for the next 5 or 6 years. I think in the background, really, that a lot of them, although they've even been told now that Yallourn is going, they're still hoping, got some little doubt in their minds, and that they're hoping that they won't have to worry anyway, that eventually something will turn up to stop Yallourn going.
It's amazing how these people are prepared to admit that they've always known that the town would have to go, and yet what they say and what they've done is actually doesn't reconcile, because
I found this couple who've lived in the town for 35 years. He's worked for the commission and probably got pretty good money in recent years, now retired, and they just haven't made any provision for their old age. He says, frankly, I've got enough money to bury Mum and I, and that's all we've got put away. And so, well, what's he been doing with his money for 35 years?
You say, what has he been doing with his money? Isn't this a result of the fact that the Commission have been such good landlords? They've provided everything that you want to, for the maintenance of your home and your garden. They've been so good in this respect, and you've felt so secure, and you haven't felt the need to provide for future accommodation.
No, I agree with you, John. I think we've created the situation, and we're going to carry the can for it.
One of the admirable things that I found with the old people too, perhaps it's rather a grim thought, but I think it's a tribute to their realism that some of the people I interviewed are in a part of the town that has over 10, perhaps 12 years before they are required to move out of it. And these old people said, well, we haven't really got a problem, young man, because we won't be here.
I'd like to refer, if I may, Graham, to the social impact of this operation. You know, a lot of these people are going to be far better off as a result of having to move from here than they imagine at this point.
I get sad, and I'm lonely all the time, deep down, but I don't show it. And after all, the present is all we have. Why, what's the use of wondering what I'm going to do next year when I might be here? I have lots of sort of moments when I'm sitting here quietly thinking, oh gosh, but I'll have to do something soon. Well, I've been a widow for 17 years, and of course the Commission do look after those of us who've been left widows, and I say so. But the very thought of moving just is dreadful, I think. Just dreadful.
I like it very much. The flats are quite comfortable and, you know, everything you wish for. I'm very happy here.
Our neighbours are all very friendly, and if anyone's in bother at all, there'll always be someone come to, you know, to find out how you're getting on.
We don't go in and out of each other's houses all the time. If you want company, you go out the door, and if you don't want it, you stay inside.
It was a very big break to make. And I wouldn't have left Yallourn, and, you know, if it wasn't necessary.
Well, I've got to make the break one day, and I think this would be as nice a set-up as anything. The only thing is I'm used to grandchildren every holidays, you know.
Well, I've got grandchildren and they come to see me and...
Yes, but they stay for weeks. Mine stay for weeks.
Oh, no, they can't stay really. They just come in for the day, like...
I love Yallourn. I can't see myself living in anything else but a house in Yallourn, but I know the day is coming when I'm going to leave.
We've all felt that way.
Yes. It must have been hard on you leaving, Linda.
Yes, it was very hard. I didn't want to leave Yallourn because I'd been there since 1926, and I had lots of interest belonged to lots of organisations in the town, but when I knew that it was inevitable, that in 1979 I'd have to leave, and houses were going all round me. I think there were 40 houses in the area where I lived had been demolished. Well, and when this unit became available, I felt that, well, it was the most sensible thing to do to take it. Even though it was a heartbreak at the time, and it really was, I feel I've done the right thing.
I was in the same house for 33 years, and, well, they told me I had to be out by 1979, and I had the opportunity of coming here, and I thought, well, I might as well go now, because I was getting older each year, and I thought it was, you know, a good idea to get out now and get settled. But, I hated leaving Yallourn.
As a social worker with the City of Traralgon, I am involved with elderly people in the housing. With elderly people, I've noticed their physically and mentally conditions have improved a great deal. I think it's because of the company, that no longer are they lonely.
I'd like to be in, you know, in one of those places where Linda is.
But I've been spending my money right and left because I didn't think it was necessary to hoard it all up, you see, and I've been going to South Australia such a lot while my sister was alive, and I won't be going anymore, not over there. And my husband refused to buy a block of land years before he was sick. I used to say we could afford a block of land in Newborough. I wouldn't go over. He said I could have bought it myself, I think. Sometimes I think perhaps it would have been better if I had. I would have had the land then. But still, I haven't, and you don't live on regrets either.
Well, the Resettlement Centre was opened in March of this year as a headquarters for the people who did the survey of the Yallourn Township. I moved in full-time
I feel, Mr. Penny,
on the 1st of October.
that there have been a lot of alterations. Now, we have got this offer of 2,000, you know, if you leave
As a lump sum.
That's right. Well, when the chap did come to interview us in May, he did say that we'd be able to buy the home that we're now living in. I believe it is going to be on a much higher scale of payment for the home.
Oh, well, individual homes, they're valued separately, but most of them are in the region of 2,000 too.
The SEC were to offer us $800 towards the block of land.
Nice.
And they would be making the land available to we people, which I believe was to be Torres Street or some parts of Newborough that they were hoping to
that's still happening. The thing is, they're not, you know, they're not there yet, or they're not subdivided yet. But this is SEC subdivision, and the blocks in Trent Street and the blocks finally in Torres Track will be going at cost, and that's the cost of the land per acre, and then the cost of roads, curbs, and
what is that
services.
cost there?
Well, we don't know until it's done, really. But our own surveyors are doing the subdivision and the pegging out.
I felt through the survey that we had that, you know, we felt so happy that we're going to be able to take this house.
Yes.
And we're going to be able to take it up Torres Street, which is a hill, very similar to what we're living on.
Yes.
And it's not going to cost us any more than $5,000. It's not going to cost us any more than $5,000. Now, it's going to cost us much more than that now.
People come in with all kinds of problems. They come in the first place to find out what they're entitled to under the Yallourn Resettlement Scheme, what there is to offer in the way of land, units for the elderly, houses available for removal from Yallourn. They just want to know what is available in the first place, and they want to go away then and think about it. The people who are being assisted are the ones who were living in Yallourn before the 15th of April 1969. People who came into the town after April 1969 were quite aware that the town would have to go. They're only on weekly tenancies, and the SEC feels no liability there. For those who are getting assistance, the SEC is paying a grant of $2,000 and $250 to cover their removal expenses. With the Housing Commission, the SEC is providing land at Newborough for a village for the elderly.
Are they ground floor or
All single story.
Single
This is what we this is what we've asked for in particular.
Yes, and
the
then
single story and the extra bedroom.
I see. Oh, well, that's beautiful, those. But have you any idea about what the rent of those would be in comparison to the units at the hospital?
Well, it's quite a different idea. This is rental only, and the Commission subsidises the difference between the rental you're paying now and the rental you'll pay in the Housing Commission units. If they move into a Housing Commission unit,
that we need to subsidise, then we subsidise the tenant and pay only the $250 removal expenses. Yes, well, we've got about 700 people to be rehoused from Yallourn by about 1985. Land's no problem. There's plenty of land in the immediate vicinity. Land at Newborough, Morwell, Churchill, Traralgon, Moe. At Churchill, the Housing Commission has available now, with the roads and curbs, about 100 blocks. Their prices range from 2,000 to 3,000. For the Housing Commission blocks available for private purchase, the SEC is giving its people a subsidy of $800. In addition to the blocks the Housing Commission's made available for private purchase, it also is building houses. It's made provision for building houses around Churchill. This should be of particular interest to young couples because of the proximity of the Institute of Advanced Education.
This is the site that's been allocated for the Catholic school and church, and it's about 5.4 acres in all. We'd hoped eventually to build the church up this end and the school down on that flat part, the playground in the lower corner there. Well, as you know, we've got the offer of this land from the Housing Commission, and now they've agreed to this amended price of $40,000. Assuming we get our grant for our school, we can go ahead with this project straight away, but we've got to think about the long-term project of perhaps building a church in a few years and on the remainder of the land. Now, we all know that the SEC is going to compensate the diocese for the improvements that the church has put up over at Yallourn. Do you think the time's appropriate for us to apply to the bishop? What do you think, Terry?
Well, the census that the SEC did at Yallourn showed that there was quite a few people coming out here from Yallourn, and you know, I know of a lot of people at Churchill that come from Yallourn. I don't think they have any reason to knock us back.
So I think it's essential that permanent churches get established to give the community some sort of spirit, something to pin its community life around. I remember when we first came here, love, about 8 years ago now, there were no shops, and Tawny Days was working in that area down there, and the place was covered in dust. And
the town is growing all the time. There are very few people moving out.
No, that's right.
Everybody wants to stay.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's a town with a future, definitely.
Personally, I think it's a sorry thing to see a town die. But of course, I'm going to see another town grow. The people who really concern me are the elderly people, not just the retired people, but the ones in their mid-70s and upwards, who, apart from having thought that they'd live in the town for the rest of their lives, are at an age anyway where it becomes a problem trying to do something for themselves.
And what have you been doing yourself this time?
Oh, well, I had too much sugar.
Is that right? Yeah. And balancing? There's not another arm.
Yes, another arm, the right one this time.
Well, you're keeping it pretty good. Last year it was the left, wasn't it?
Left, elbow and shoulder I broke last year. This year I broke my right arm.
Oh, no fun. It becomes a problem living on your own, really. And I suppose we've got to get to the stage of, shortly, one of these days, we've thought given to some sort of accommodation or arrangement.
What are the SEC, have they got any land to build, or are they building anywhere? Where is it?
Yes, well, Joe was talking about the Golden Years units before, weren't you? Are you still interested in those?
Oh, it just depends on the
finance.
You know that's where it's going to be, don't you?
Is that where it's going to be?
Yes, you see the sign?
That's lovely.
Yeah, so it's near the hospital.
Oh, quite neat.
But on the other hand, there won't be anything there until, the end of this year at the latest. 4 years. started talking about these units only halfway through this year, talking to the Housing Commission, talking to the Golden Years Appeal people, and while we've got things on paper about them, we haven't got any bricks and mortar, which is rather sad, because we find with the elderly people that they want to do something now, and if they're going to make a move, they want to make it as soon as possible.
Well, Joe, is there any way, or Dee, is there any way that you can think of at the moment that we can render future assistance to you?
Oh, no, unless it's home help for 3 weeks, and then I suppose we'd have to go off it for a day or two and perhaps get it back again.
Well, that's something we can consider at the time, but that's only a temporary arrangement. I was thinking more on the lines of, have you got any thoughts or ideas or worries regarding something of a permanent nature?
Well, I can't see that we can do much until we know what they've got for us. Of course, Yallourn, if SEC builds the house there for me, I'm quite satisfied to go there.
But they're all, all those things are still about 10 or 12 months away. And
the thinking stage.
It's what you do in the meantime that's a bit of a concern.
We might be pushing up daisies, but...
We just battle along where we are.
You don't expect to, though, do you?
No, really, I don't.
You're not awfully worried about what's going to happen in the next
Oh, no.
We're not worried a bit.
You know the...
We're not the worried type.
Well, you know the Commission will look after you.
Oh, too right. We're very lucky to be where we are.
We're very lucky to have the SEC behind us, I think.
There's no doubt about it. This is something with a real problem. It's we've got to face it, I suppose.
No, we'll have to do something about it pretty promptly. Will you ring me, what, tomorrow?
Yes, I'll get in touch with you tomorrow, John. The home help is no great problem, but we've got so many of these cases, we'll have to give it a very serious thought, that's for sure.
And it's pretty
We're just coming up now to the number 12 dredger erection site. And as I mentioned this morning, this new dredger is hoped to be commissioned early next year. It costs $3.4 million. And if, as we get up the hill, you look across to the left, you'll notice how close the open cut is approaching to the dredger site. Now, this dredger will be used in removing overburden and advancing towards the township of Yallourn.
Most of these men here, they are the real pioneers, and I mean pioneers, that they're going back 14, 50 years when the place was virtually scrubbed. Well, most of them have been here since the very early days of the Yallourn itself, and some of the men here today would go back to 1924. And this is going back in history when coal was won by digging it out with manual power and carting up to the power station in drays with horses.
Down here used to be my farm, but now it's one big hole.
Our old farm is now the Yallourn open cut. There were some very big swamps there, and we used to get 2 shillings of a Saturday afternoon to beat these swamps for foxes and that.
Then you and Yallourn would be used.
Yallourn was condemned from the day it was built.
Yallourn must be shifted, of course, but
you can't have everywhere, and you can't stop progress of the country. Australia needs progress.
That's right.
That's my way of feeling that.
It's just hard to conceive that the life of one man can span over the progress that has been made.
They knew from the word go that Yallourn had to go. These people that started, they knew what was going to come to, and this is what it is coming to. But, the progress has been marvellous. Look, just think of the work, the thousands of people that's employed and that's got money out of this place and that. Goodness, nobody can ever complain. Not at all.